babies cry and watch them grow. The colors of the rainbow are always on your face. I hear babies cry and watch them grow. They learn much more than I'll ever know. And now the time has come for us all to say those words that we always know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. And Jim, thank you for the music you always played for me.
Brent, that was beautiful. And for those of you who do not know me, my name is Rich Broderhausen. I was senior minister of this church for 26 and a half years with my lovely wife. We retired a year and a half ago, but I always love coming back. I don't always love coming back for situations like this. I would rather minimize them, but I think you would all agree with me that it is a wonderful world, and more wonderful because Jim Templeton has shared this world with us. And just to kind of bring us all to center, I think probably most of us here know the Lord's Prayer. I would invite you to join me in saying that out loud. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will is done, in earth as it is in heaven. You give us this day our daily bread, and you forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And you leave us not in temptation, but you deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So, especially in behalf of Michelle and Janus and Jim, I welcome you here today. Thank you for being here to honor Jim, to celebrate his life, and to take a few moments also to say, so sorry, Michelle and Janus and the rest of the family, for Jim not being with us physically anymore. But we know the truth, don't we? We're not going to get away from that guy. We're always going to be carrying him right here in our hearts and in our minds and in our thoughts. And as difficult it is when someone dear to us leaves, and the closer that they are to us, the more difficult it is. And so I know my heart and everyone's heart in here goes out to you, and we hold you in our hearts. Jim Templeton. I have so many wonderful memories of Jim, and we'll have an opportunity to share some of those as we move on through our gathering today. I suspect that you all read the obituary, but in case you didn't, I'm going to share it now. James Dwight Templeton. In loving memory of Jim Templeton, who joined the big jazz band in heaven on June 14th, 2021. He's probably playing among the angels right now. Jim was a caring husband, father, and grandfather, loved by all. He loved the outdoors and had a special place in his heart for Glacier National Park. Jim worked at the park for 5 summers as a pianist in the lodges. Couldn't you just see him there, having a great time, entertaining, making people laugh and feel good and relaxed and just into his wonderful music? In his retirement, he loved gardening and going road tripping in the RV with Michelle and their dogs. A United Airlines special promotion led Jim to living 16 years in Denmark and a love for European travel. Never know what's going to change your life. Jim's interest in healing led him to his second career as a massage, cranial, sacral therapist. He healed people in Denmark, Spokane, and Vancouver, Washington. I have had him hold his head, my head, in his hands. I trusted him. Jim's lifelong passion was music. He started playing the piano at the age of 6 and continued to get his master's degree in piano. Jim was a gifted piano teacher of all ages, including college master's program. Jim performed at all levels, from the symphony to his own jazz band, Cosmic Dust. He even wrote a book called I Played It Perfectly at Home, which was published in New York. I never got to talk to him about that. After moving to Vancouver, Washington, Jim fulfilled a lifelong dream of creating, managing, and performing at a high-class jazz restaurant called Ivory's in Portland, Oregon. Bands from all over the world came and played at Ivory's. Jim lit up when he played the piano, and the light will shine on. Anybody here been to Ivory's? Sweet. Yeah, that was nice, wasn't it? That was a great, great time. Don't really want to make light of the loss, however. You know, we feel that. We feel it deeply. At times when we look at this beautiful man and think about the times that we had together and the difference that he made in our lives, and we know that grief is important. And I know some people in here have already cried buckets of tears. And those tears are good. And when they come, I invite anyone to embrace them, because they are proof of the love that you have for Jim and that he has for you. And those, I call them, they're waves of grief as they come. And I've always liked the image of waves from the ocean just rolling up on the shore, and you feel and then the waves just kind of go flat on the shore, and then they just kind of go back out smoothly. And that's when we take a deep breath and we say, thank you for the privilege and for the pleasure of Jim's company. And so I invite you to do that. And I invite you now in this very moment to take actually a few minutes of silence and be with Jim. Because I know Jim is here. I felt his presence actually all through the night. I didn't sleep that soundly, and I had one of these on my bedstead sitting right next to me, so he could feed me whatever he wanted to feed me. And one thing he fed me was, "Relax, Rich, don't wear a suit." So I accepted that. Although, as Gary told me, he always did wear a suit when he was playing. But let's just take a few moments and just be still and appreciate Jim, and appreciate and give thanks for your unique relationship with him, and see him in the light, the golden light of the heavens, however you view those. And let's be with him as he is with us. And take a deep breath. And why don't we just all say, "Thank you, God, for Jim." Can we affirm that together? Thank you, God, for Jim. And again, thank you, God, for Jim. Thank you, God, for Jim. I had the privilege of getting a communication from Janos that he sent to Michelle. And I'm going to read that out loud, too. I thought it was important enough to put in this little remembrance that I put together. And so I'm going to share those thoughts from Janos. It is with heavy hearts that we let go of our life partner, father, friend, colleague, who departed on Sunday night, June 13th. Through his life, he has been a motor of creativity and music. And his belief that anything in life is possible has driven him far and given life and inspiration to many musicians and projects. With his quirky sense of humor, which often only family and friends understood, he was charming and outgoing, joking with whoever he met, often leaving them bewildered. Jim lately said that he was happy with the life he lived and did not have anything he would change, even if he could. There may be a message in us all for that. He has lived the life he wanted. In our hearts, we can find comfort in knowing that he was still vibrant and very much alive, loved and loving until his passing. Jim's last evening was together with his family, with dinner on the porch and loved ones all around. Jim spent his final 5 days with his son, Janos, who came from Denmark to be with his dad and with Michelle. The sweet love of his life, who devotedly cared for him through his illness and for so many years together. It seems that Jim, given the ALS diagnosis 2 years ago, chose the right moment to let go of us and this mortal life. Godspeed, dear Jim. When I met with Michelle, with Gary Edighofer on the phone from Canada, we were talking about music. It seemed like, what are we going to do for music? And so I've had, Jim gave me one of his CDs a long time ago, Cosmic Dust Journey, the first one. And there were so many others. And I've been listening to Jim pretty much nonstop for the last couple of days. And, his tone of many different tones is celebrative. It's joyous. I found myself with mixed emotions this morning. I'm thinking, I'm just excited to go be here today and talk about Jim and be with everyone who loved him and those who may be looking on live stream as well. And at the same time, there was the wave of the grief and the sorrow. But the music, music is a language that goes beyond all barriers, all boundaries, can touch everyone. And Jim was so amazing with his music as a composer and as a player. Annette Gorseth, who sang, Jim used to play for her at Hobart's and probably around town also, and so many people that he played for. He played this very piano right here in this church. In fact, I was going to say, Jim actually took a part of a second mortgage on his house to help pay for this church. We did pay him back, which was appreciated. But, he was instrumental in so many ways. And, you think that the time goes by so fast, doesn't it, folks? It just seems like it just disappears. Whoever would have thought that we would get past 1984, let alone 2020? So you think back, it just amazes me. It seems like only a few years ago that I was sleeping in your spare bedroom, Michelle, there in Vancouver, and she reminded me, no, that was like 7 years ago probably now that's been. So time flies. But one thing that doesn't, and here's a reading that's on the little bulletin here. The traveler. He has put on invisibility, has he not? Dear Lord, we cannot see, but this we know, although the road ascends and passes from our sight, that there will be no night, that you will take him gently by the hand and lead him on along the road of life that never ends. And he will find it is not death, but it is dawn. We do not doubt that you are there as here, and you hold him dear. Our lives did not begin with birth. Our lives are not actually of the earth. This life is no more than the opening and the closing of a door. And in your house, how many rooms must be beyond this one where we rest momently? Dear Lord, James Dillard Freeman wrote this many, many years ago. And Lord can mean this great, incredible cosmic being. For some, it can mean Jesus Christ. For some, it means the very Lord of our own being, the life and the presence of our own being. And so, dear Lord, we thank you for the faith that frees, the love that knows it cannot lose its own. And isn't that the truth? And it's, if you look at this, you'll notice that these last few lines are in larger type. Ordinarily, I wouldn't necessarily read this whole thing, but when I saw that they were in larger type, and I actually went in and thought I fixed it, and it came out that they weren't fixed, I got a message. The love that knows it cannot lose its own. How important that is for us to recognize, not only with Jim, but for everyone who is important to us in our lives, that the love that we share with them cannot be lost, and therefore they cannot be lost from us. The love that looking through the shadows, and sometimes we are looking through the shadows, huh? Sees that you and he and we are ever one. And it is so. It is so. And so with those thoughts, Gary and Brent will come forward, who played with Jim, of course, and they will play a song. I'm going to let Gary, I'm going to let you introduce that instead of me, but it's called The Peacocks. So let's hear it, guys.
This was one of Jim's favorite songs. He introduced it to me maybe 30 years ago, and we played it together many, many times. And it was actually the last thing we played together at his music studio in his house in Vancouver, just 2 years ago, right before they moved there. It's very special.
I'm sure that Jim loved that. So, how about celebrating Jim's life? Are you in the mood for a celebration? Because I know that's what Jim would want us to be doing, is saying, hey, that was one heck of a guy, right? And I remember this, and I remember that, and I remember all of these wonderful things. We're gonna have an opportunity. I'm gonna swing this around like that, and I'm going to ask you to come forward, whoever would like to share something, and tell us who you are, and share whatever it is, and what your relationship with Jim is, and share whatever it is that you would like to share. A beautiful album that Gary brought over to me the other day, My One and Only Love, is a collection of Jim playing piano solos. And I ripped it, Gary, onto my computer. I didn't know if I could get another copy, so I confess before the world, evidently. But one of the songs on there that seemed to be very appropriate, Gary and I both like two different songs, so I picked one that was appropriate for the moment. And so I'd like us, as we gather our memories that we would like to share, listen to Jim play for us the very thought of you. Shall we? Should we? Sure, let's do that. Let's sing happy birthday to Jim. What do you say? Together? Before? No, that's fine. That's fine. Let's sing happy birthday. Okay? Who wants to start it? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jim. Happy birthday to you. God is blessing you now. God is blessing you now. God is blessing you. You're wonderful and fabulous and fantastic and awesome. God is blessing you. So would you like to be the first to speak, Janus? All right. Why don't you come on up?
Hello, everybody. I'm Jim's son, one of the two, and haven't really prepared anything, but I felt it's just important for me to send my love from Rune, my brother, and everybody at home in Denmark. And I just want to sort of channel that to Jim, of course, and to all of you. And I really want to say how thankful I am for everything that Michelle and all of you and Gary and what you've all done for Jim. It's not been so easy for you guys the last couple of years. And I also want to say to all of the friends that are not here but are home in Denmark or out in Vancouver or wherever they're sitting, that Jim spoke a lot about so many of you. I talked to one of his old drummer colleagues on Facebook a few days ago, and he could hardly remember Jim, but Jim would still mention him occasionally, and that was so a lot of the people that can't be here. I know that Jim had you in his heart, and so I just want to say goodbye to Jim physically, and thank you for the beautiful words, and he does live on in all of us, and everything that he has given us, and all the challenges he could also give us sometimes by being who he was, and that's definitely given me a lot, and it's definitely giving me a very optimistic approach to life in general. And I think he's activated so much energy around him, and started so many movements musically, or just with the way of being very optimistic and pushing through. So I want to just say that we will be able to, he will live on in our hearts, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Janus, so much. So great to see you. You're such a handsome guy. I just overwhelmed almost. So this would be the time, again, if you'd like to come forward and share some memories, share anything that you would like. What I find about these times is that we learn things about people that we didn't know before, because everybody's relationship is a bit different. So all you need to do is step forward, tell us who you are, and share what it is that you would like to share. So we will await you.
Well, I first met Jim in 1980. I had just finished my first year of teaching at Spokane Falls, and I was out, it was like mid-June, and I was out just cleaning up this and that, and somehow he got in the building and was roaming around the hallways, and we ran into each other and got to talking about music and so forth, and you know, he had just come over from Denmark the day before or something, and but one of the first things came out of his mouth when he found out I was a musician, he says, "Do you play electric jazz?" And once we figured out what that was, then and I said, "Well, yeah, sure, I guess I'd be interested in that." And he says, "Okay, do you want to make a band?" So it was interesting, and so we did. We made a band, and by the end of the week, we had a band together. This was the first iteration of Cosmic Dust Fusion Band. We practiced ferociously almost every day for about 2 weeks, and then played about 4 gigs or 6 gigs or something like that. And then, boom, he's gone back to Denmark, and it's all over. And we put in all that work and amazing good times, playing almost exclusively his compositions, of course. So, and this went on for several years. He would come back in the summer for only 6 weeks, and we'd get the band together and do the same kind of thing. And this went on for about 5 years, and then it kind of faded away, and there was a bit of a hiatus, I guess. And but at some point, I think maybe around 88, 90, something like that, he actually moved to Spokane, moved back to Spokane, and then we put the band together again, and we had another iteration with a few different musicians, because some had left town or whatever, and anyway, to make a long story short, Cosmic Dust continued to function on and off for, well, since 1980 until tonight. We're going to play some tunes tonight in honor. We're going to dig out some of the Cosmic Dust tunes. But anyway, and there were, I would say, 4 or 5 different iterations of the band, and he even got the band together down in Portland, Vancouver area. Charles Neal on drums here was in that group, as well as Dave Turner, who is originally from Spokane and will be playing tonight with us. And anyway, Cosmic Dust. We toured internationally, meaning U.S. and Canada, and but we did several trips up in Canada, played all kinds of concerts around here and throughout the Northwest, and it's a pretty good success too. People just really appreciated Jim's music and what we're able to offer. So, mind you, he played in all kinds of other groups. 2 other groups he led here in Spokane. One was Frontline Jazz Quintet. Played down at Hobart's regularly, and also in Portland, I believe. Simpatico, and then he also played in several groups around town, played a lot in Viva Jazz with Dan Keberly, and just all kinds of things. I mean, he was a musical icon of the highest order, and particularly his compositions. I think that's one of the main things. Oh, and the name, of course, Cosmic Dust Fusion Band, we came up with. There's probably a glass or 2 of wine involved, but the band formed in 1980. What else happened in the spring of 1980? Mount St. Helens blew. So we ended up with Cosmic Dust Fusion Band. So that's where that comes from. But a couple other things about him that you may not know besides his music is he was a phenomenal racquetball player. And we used to play all the time. He won almost all the time. Great player. He was also a fantastic dog owner, if you can grade that, I guess. He was just a master at being a master, I guess. He would train German Shepherds primarily, and just unbelievable. I got to dog sit for him several times and just amazed at what he was able to teach his dogs. He would teach them to open doors, close doors, and all that kind of thing, and we'd sit around sometimes and joke about how his one dog, Sabrina, was possibly smarter than a lot of the people we knew. So again, Jim's sense of humor.
And Jim's sense of humor, I think, is something like it was said earlier. You know, some people weren't sure. We'll say that. But if you really got to know him, he was just genuinely a funny guy, the master of puns. That's for sure. So he studied craniosacral therapy, and then he opened his own studio on the South Hill, craniosacral therapy and massage. And like he was prone to do, he named a lot of things after musical terms. So he called his business rubato. So quite soon after that, we were going, well, it really isn't rubato, is it? It's rubato. So, master of the pun. Yeah. And when he went down to Vancouver, one of his lifetime goals, of course, was to open and run a jazz club, which he did, the club Ivories. Michelle, is this picture taken at Ivories? I think so, yeah. So that's the club right there. But what was interesting is his email address for years and years was Jim Ivories, and then he ended up opening a club called Ivories. So I thought that was pretty, I don't know, I get that. One of several of his goals. One was to get all of his songs recorded, all of his original compositions, which he did on 3 different Cosmic Dust albums. And one of the other major things on his bucket list was to open a jazz club, which he did. So the last probably example of Jim's incredible humor after he was diagnosed with ALS and was kind of facing the reality, he said, well, I have accomplished everything on my bucket list. You know, I did all these things. I opened the club. I've accomplished everything on my bucket list. The only thing left to do is kick the bucket. So that's Jim. Happy birthday, Jim.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joan. I first met Jim probably 28 years ago. I want to tell you how we met because it's an interesting story. So I did massage therapy. I just started my practice, and I was working at a hair salon. And before I started at this hair salon, I did this gig at this Mind and Body Expo, and one of the things I did was put out a container for people to put their name and phone number in so that I could do a drawing and introduce them to my massage. And so Jim came along and sat down in my massage chair, and we talked a little bit, and I gave him a little bit of a massage, and then he put his name in the jar and went off, and I'm kind of nervous, sorry. And so a couple of days later, I was at work, and I was at our front desk, and I was getting ready to pull the name out of this container, and the phone rang. And the receptionist answered it, and she said, "It's for you, for me." And I answered the phone. As I was pulling the name out, I said, "This is Joan." And he said, "Hello, my name's Jim Templeton." I looked at the name on the ticket, and it was Jim Templeton. And I said, "You are not going to believe this." And I told him what just happened, and he used an expletive, and he said, that's not possible. And I said, "It is possible. I'm looking right at your name." And so he came in, and we became friends after that. He was somebody that I really connected with in terms of body work, and he shared with me that it was one of his dreams to do body work. And so he began to come to me on a regular basis, and we got to know each other. And as our friendship grew, he became more and more interested in cranial sacral work. And he went to massage therapy school in the first, I want to say probably 8 years that I knew him. And we talked often about what kind of practice he wanted to have and how he wanted to provide body work. And I got to have him practice on me sometimes too. We kind of practiced on each other. And somewhere along the line, he said to me, "Do you know any single women?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I mean, I guess so." And he said, "Well, if you ever see somebody you think I might like to meet, let me know." And I said, "Okay." And so one day, Michelle came to me for a massage, and I thought, maybe I knew Denise and Rick, and we'd been friends, and they'd come to me for body work, and I thought, and then they introduced me to Michelle, and Michelle came, and then I thought one day, maybe Michelle and Jim might like to meet. So I asked Jim if he'd like to meet her, and he said sure. So they met at Huckleberry's, as I recall. And later, after he met Michelle, he said, "Bingo." He said, "Good job," he said to me, and I felt really happy for the both of them, and the rest is history. But I want to say that I'm so glad that I got to put the two of you in touch with each other. And I'm so grateful to have gotten to know you through him, and I continued to get to know him through all of you. And I want you to know, Janusz, I've known your dad for about 28 years, and he was ever so proud of you, ever so proud of you. And I am so grateful to have known him and now see you sitting in front of me. I feel like I know him even deeper, so Godspeed, Jim. I'm so grateful you are in my life.
Hard to follow all of your wonderful remarks. I'm Kira. I'm Michelle's daughter. So Jim was like a stepdad to me, and my husband Justin and I are just so thankful for his light and for the love that my mom and him shared. So the main thing that or maybe not the main thing, but one of the important things that we remember about Jim and hold about him in our heart is his music, of course. And Justin and I have 3 children, and he was able to practice some of his music with our kids. And so you can see the picture there of Jim with our oldest son, Owen, when he was just a little guy, playing, I don't even know the name of that instrument, the melodica, yeah, on the beach. And just a lot of good memories of him, with Christmas tunes and letting the kids bang on the drums and all of that kind of fun stuff. So I have a poem to read, and it is called "He Is Gone," and it's by David Harkins. And we read this for Mamu also, and so Mamu and Jim are just, shining their lights down on all of us. So, here we go. He is gone. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live for yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry, close your mind, be empty, and turn your back, or you can do what he would have wanted, smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. So Grandpa Jim, we love you.
My name's Greg, and probably almost nobody in here knows me. Um, I have been good friends with the Atwoods for years, and I can one-up Joan. Michelle may not even realize that she met Jim before Joan introduced her. I was at Eastern. I decided to study piano late in life, and my good friend Wayne Atwood asked me to find a piano player for a celebration that he was having for Joy's birthday, I think it was, probably 99 or 2000, somewhere around there. So I went to the jazz department at Eastern and said, who do you know? Because I'm not from Spokane. And they said, well, there's this guy, Jim Templeton. He's really good. But whatever you do, don't let him tune the piano. I said, well, okay. I mean, I know about piano tunings. I know that there are really hundreds of different tunings. The one that we listen to mostly is common, but not all that. Well, anyway, so we hired a place in Brown's Addition, and there was a good quality upright grand there, and I had insisted that it be professionally tuned before the show. So I got there early with the caterers, and we're all setting up, and Jim shows up. And the first thing he does when he sits down and plays like 2 chords, takes out his bag, and he's got a tuner. And he opens up the piano, and he goes to work, and I just thought, okay, he knows what he's doing. I'm not going to tell him, no, don't tune the piano. And he played, and it was a wonderful celebration for Joy. And I'm sure you were there. And, you know, so kind of the ultimate irony. Years later, when my wife and I moved back to Spokane, Rick and Denise, our friends, said, you know, Michelle's together with Jim Templeton. Jim Templeton? You mean from the piano guy? Anyway, so I just wanted to share that bit with you, and God bless you, Michelle.
Well, I'm not a heavyweight like you folks. My name's Roger, and I first met Jim in 1988 when he came back from Denmark. I don't know if I met you that year, Johannes, but I was his student, one of his first students at Spokane Falls Community College. I wanted to increase my enthusiasm for music. I was 45 at the time. I'm actually about 1 year younger than Jim, so he was always my senior. I always looked up to Jim. Not only was he taller than me, but he was older than I. And very talented man, and he really knew music. Of course, I was not a musician, but I loved music, and my father played by ear and was a talented guy, and he tuned pianos, by the way. Anyway, at first I took lessons at the community college with him, and he had me audition even, and I hadn't played much piano for years. I had another career, a very long career. Actually, in a related field, I was a neurologist for 43 years here in town. And what a tragedy that he ended up with ALS, which is, as you know, incurable disease, a neurodegenerative disease. I did connect a little at the end to get him at an ALS clinic here in town, which was a good clinic, and I think he got good care down the road. And I did go up and visit them one time, and I played a piece he taught me, and he said, "Gee, I taught you that?" That was a long time ago, 33 years, you know. But the thing he did for me was he taught me music theory. I had taken piano lessons as a kid, and I could play some, you know, fairly complicated music, Chopin, Schubert, that sort of thing. But I didn't play by ear, and my dad could. I always envied him. He had this incredible ear. He could just sit down and play. I can do it some with the basic blues, you know, some of those things, you know, 3-chord songs. Now I do bluegrass with my wife. Then I'm learning how to play the bass. A couple comments that weren't made yet. You know, he was a good vibes player too, vibraphone. You know, I love the sound of the vibes. Probably next to the piano, I would go with vibes. You know, Mel Jackson, those kind of guys. Gary Burton. And jazz guitar too. And then Giannis was a drummer, and I remember one time I came to that, I guess it was a basement studio at his house on 36th, was it? And he was so proud. He had a Steinway piano, big grand, and the action on those things are stiff. I'm used to, you know, spinets and little pianos. And man, you know, you got to hit those notes. But he was so proud to have that Steinway. He really does. And his sense of humor was quirky, I agree, but we hit it off. You know, he's a very intelligent man, and he really knew music theory, and he loved Dave Brubeck. And In Your Own Sweet Way was one of his favorite songs, and he printed out a really good arrangement, I think by Dave Brubeck himself, of that, and I still love to hear In Your Own Sweet Way. On his Cosmic Dust albums, this one song I remember, Rosario's. I think that's a resort over in the San Juan Islands. I don't know if he played there or what, but I always liked that song. I really liked that song. And I saw Cosmic Dust several times, and I saw Jim at other gigs. Sometimes he'd just be playing in the lobby at a hotel or something. He was a great cocktail pianist, and I went down to Portland several times to the Ivories, and he had a good little restaurant there, and he had big name entertainers coming in there. And of course, sometimes there weren't a lot of people in there, and you could go up and just sit by the piano, and he had, what, a clear top on that piano so you could see the keys going. Also in 1988, I remember first hearing Brett Edstrom. I think you came about that time. And I remember Jim saying, that guy is a great pianist. And boy, absolutely. We're friends, you know. Brent played at my retirement, 15 years ago, but then I went back to work for 11 years. I finally retired about a month ago, to tell you the truth. And I hope I have as happy a life as Jim. I love music. I'm trying to get back into music more. The one thing he did, and I really appreciated, he taught standards. And I approach music from the beautiful melodies, but I've really learned, I love harmonies, you know, those minors, those dissonants. And the Peacock, it's a beautiful piece. I love it. Gary, thank you for doing that. I've heard it with the baritone sax on several recordings, but that is a very dissonant piece, I would say, but kind of like Jim, you know, kind of bittersweet at times. He'd make some interesting comments, you're right. But you know, he was a good-hearted person all the way. And then he got into sacral therapy. I didn't get into that as much, obviously. He would ask me some questions since I was a neurologist about it. But I just really appreciate knowing Jim. Mine was a more tangential relationship over the years. But like I say, it goes all the way back to 1988. And I did get to Denmark a few years ago, by the way. But I didn't know your address. And we were only there one day, so... Anyway, I appreciate every comment today and the beautiful music. Thank you so much. And Wayne, my friend Wayne Atwood, reminded me, you know, this was coming. And I saw the obituary in the paper. I was out of town last week, so I'm glad I got back in time for the funeral. It's been very, very meaningful. Thank you for your comments. I'm like you. I'm a very emotional person. My only sibling, my sister, died 11 months ago, and that was a very painful experience too. And now another friend, another doctor friend that used to be in Spokane, has a malignant brain tumor, and I just saw him, and he can't talk to me anymore. So it was all just pure emotion, that relationship. He could not speak. And this guy was one of the most verbal people I know. And he was also a jazz fan.
Thank you. My name is Annette Gorseth, and I'm a professional singer from London, England. I've been here 30 years now. When I first met Jim, I was just absolutely blown away, as I was with Brent Estrom. I was a professional singer in London, England, and I sang with, well, I've been in lots of shows, but I sang with small bands, big bands, and I was used to a certain standard of musicians. And when I came here, you know, I'd kind of been spoiled with the musicians I'd worked with. And I've got to say that I am so lucky to have had the musicians, and some of them are here, to work with, because you've just blown my mind away. You've been just as good, if not even better. But Jim really blew me away. A singer has to have a really good pianist, and I certainly had that. We worked together many, many times, and as Janos is here, I have to say that on one occasion, was a trio, and the drummer was taken ill, and Janos just luckily happened to be here in Spokane, and Jim phoned him up at home and said, "We need you," and he came straight down, and I swear to God, he'd never seen my music before. It was quite complicated, and he read every note spot on. So I'll always be grateful for that. And needless to say, Jim, always spot on. I'm just so grateful to have known him. He was just such a wonderful person. Oh, and there is just one other thing with regard to his massaging. I had a very serious illness, and I was to have very aggressive radiation on my head, actually. And when Jim knew, he brought all his equipment, the bed, everything, over to our house. And he gave me his special attention and prayed for me. And I know it helped a lot. So that was the kind of man Jim was, always caring about people. And I'm just so grateful to have known him. And you, Janos.
If there's something on your mind you'd like to say, I'm going to give you 30 seconds.
I'm Michelle's son, and I didn't want to cry, but Jim could be very difficult sometimes, but he was a good bit. I first met him in maybe 2006 when he showed up in his Euro van to help me move out of my dorm at Whitworth College. And he was present at many big events in my life. My graduation from Whitworth and my graduation from my master's program and my wedding. And I later was able to repay him tenfold for helping me move out of a small dorm room when I helped him move out of a very large house in Vancouver. But he was a good person, and I do think he was very optimistic, and he, in his own way, was a very caring person. So, God bless you, Jim.
Hi, my name is David Sharp. I had the pleasure of being accompanied by probably one of the best pianists I've known in my whole life. There's no one who was ever more sensitive and more encouraging or more correcting than Jim Templeton. I recorded my first and only vocal album with him in his basement apartment studio. A Christmas collection of 100-year-old songs, so we didn't have to worry about anything except public domain music. Didn't have to pay anybody anything. But his ability to interpret 100-year-old music and poetically bring forward beautiful sounds that just inspired me to do my very best singing I ever did. And Jim and I performed in many places, many churches, and many ceremonies. I'll always remember him in my heart for being a musician of the heart, and his soulful music will always ring in my ears. I love you, Jim.
My name is Charles. I'm from Portland, Oregon. Oh, Jim. So I saw Jim, or first met Jim in '91. I was going to Spokane Falls, giving Brent and Gary a hard time. And I remember Cosmic Dust played in the cafeteria, in the student union building. And that was the first time I saw them, and I tell you, man, I was just blown away. Jazz fusion, it's not the most popular music on the planet, and there's very few groups that can play it well. And Jim, this man was just brilliant, just ridiculously brilliant. And you know, when I saw that group, it was just such an inspiration. Now let's fast forward to, I don't know, about 2008. I moved to Portland. I just graduated from Berkeley. And you know, I'm in Portland for a while, and I got the phone call I forgot who told me, but someone said that Jim Templeton's living in Vancouver, and you should go check him out. And I was like, really? Awesome. Because I love jazz fusion, and it's really hard to find cats to play that music. So I went and visited Jim, and we just hit it off right away. He didn't really remember me, but that's okay. I was like, yeah, I came to some of the, Cosmic Fusion shows, and I loved them, and, I remember I talked to you, and he was like, oh, yeah. And that was the thing about Jim, right? He couldn't hide anything, right? Even his face was missing. He's like, okay, whatever. Cool. Man, I'm just so thankful, and I'm so appreciative to have spent the last years with Jim and playing with Jim and learned so much, and coming to the house and hanging out in the music room with him and just talking music and, exchanging ideas. And, when special people come into your life, you really have to bring that in, and you really have to cherish that and get as much out of it as you can. And with Jim, that's what I tried to do. With Ivory's, I tried to help as many ways as I can with that. And, recording his, songs, and just, I don't want to sound cliche, but it was definitely having like a father figure musically in Portland. And, I appreciate that so much. And, this is sad that he's not here with us, but to have someone like this in your life, I just feel blessed. I know you guys feel so blessed to have such a wonderful human being. And Jim, we're gonna miss you, but the music still keeps going, so love you, man.
Stop me now. Thank you all for sharing. And, I didn't name all of the family members because I didn't know all the family members, but thank you for speaking. And our hearts are with you, Kira and Brian, Gary, Kevin. So that was very enlightening. Thank you. Some of my fondest memories with Jim were sitting playing cribbage over coffee. We used to meet over in Brown's Edition and play cribbage there. And we played cribbage a lot of different places, actually. That was one of our favorite things to do. And he was good. Yeah, I was good too. But we traded off, kind of like that. Fond memories, very fond memories when I would go to Northwest Region meetings actually it's Corbett, Oregon, just outside of Portland. If I didn't go to stay with Jim and Michelle when I was there, then he would always make a special trip to come up, and we would spend a few hours looking over the beautiful Columbia River Gorge and talking. Lots of fond memories, and they will continue. In listening to his album, My One and Only Love, I heard him play a song, How My Heart Sings. And I thought, I never heard that song. I'm not familiar with that song. Probably some people in here are familiar with it, but I went online to look at the words, and I thought how appropriate for us today. And so I thought they were appropriate enough to put in here. And of course, I expect you to keep these forever. Do you realize that? Okay? I mean, you know, many, many years from now, you may be cleaning out a drawer, but you'll have this beautiful picture of Jim. And so I would invite you to close your eyes in this moment while I read. When I close my eyes and see your face, and I reminisce about our last embrace, a warmth deep inside fills my being with a glow, just like the feeling that makes me love you so. And my heart sings softly, joyously, harmonizing, just like you and me. In a world that's made of magic comings and goings that can disappear at will, there's so little time to play our plaintive little tune. How my heart sings and is singing still. So as we remember Jim today and take the opportunity to, you know, learn from him, and so many things that were shared were positive. Yeah, he could be a tough taskmaster, I know that. We had great times together. Great smile, and he always inspired me and called me a little higher than I was. And so thank you all for being here today with us. At the close of the ceremony, which we'll close with Annette singing Over the Rainbow and Brent playing. The casket will be open so that you can come if you so desire and pass in front and give your best and last regards to Jim's body, because we know you never have to give your last regards to his heart and soul. And so there will be a brief reception afterwards, and thank you all for being here. God bless you, one and all.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I've dreamed of once in a somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that we dare to, dreams really do come true. Someday I wish one there, away above the chimney tops, that's where you'll find me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above those chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Those little bluebirds fly. Oh, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond that rainbow, why, oh why can't I? God bless you, Jim. Thank you.
You're free, Jim. Fly high. You gonna move these and, okay. Are we in the way here at all?